The National Progressive Schools Conference is a 51-year-old association of senior secondary schools across the country and has 250 leading private schools under its umbrella. All the member schools of the association are affiliated to the Central Board of Secondary Education. Known for their collaborative work in teaching learning practices, policy making, scholastic and co-scholastic initiatives and reforms in education, the members of the National Progressive Schools Conference work in collaboration with government organizations such as the National Council of Educational Research and Training, the NCERT. NPSC came into existence in the early 1970s. NPSC has been making a mark in education at the national level by enrolling schools not only from Delhi but from other states as well, as also Indian schools abroad. The theme of the present two-day deliberations revolves around emerging changes and challenges in education.
The challenges posed by increased social media usage, societal pressures, family conflicts, and other external factors have significantly impacted the mental health of today's children, hindering their overall learning and growth. Further, the evolving dynamics and widening generation gap make it challenging for parents to comprehend and empathize with their children's struggle. It is imperative for families, schools, and communities to collaborate as equal stakeholders in nurturing good mental health. Early education on mental well-being is essential by teaching children to identify their issues, manage their emotions, and seek help when needed. In the first part of our conference, we shall focus on creating mindful school spaces and curricula designed to enhance focus and emotional well-being. We will explore strategies to empower educators in utilizing AI for emotional enhancement, promoting harmony through expressive mediums, and integrating performing arts as vehicles for mental expressions. Additionally, we will delve into education for resilience and well-being, inclusion, and integration in schools. We'll also discuss the significant influence of lifestyle on mental wellness, emphasizing the importance of teamwork, sports, and mental resilience in educational environments. I extend my sincere gratitude to all the esteemed panelists who will be participating in this conference and deliberating on matters relating to nurturing minds, mental health, and well-being.
As the chairperson has already set the tone for the day, I'm here to present the work done by NPSC in session 23-24. National Progressive Schools Conference is a 51-year-old association of senior secondary schools across the country and has 250 leading private schools under its umbrella. Known for its collaborative work in teaching learning practices, policy making, scholastic and co-scholastic initiatives, the members of NPSC work in collaboration with various agencies to bring about a positive change in the educational landscape of our country. In the bustling corridors of academia, the pursuit of knowledge is not merely confined to textbooks and classrooms. It is an immersive experience that encompasses the holistic development of young minds intellectually, emotionally, and socially. Yet, amidst the pressure of academic excellence and the challenges of adolescence, the mental health of our students often finds itself relegated to the periphery. The theme of our conference underscores the urgent need to redress this imbalance. Nurturing minds, fostering mental health and well-being embodies our shared commitment in promoting environment that nurtures not only academic achievements, but also emotional intelligence, resilience, and self-care. I'm filled with pride to announce that NPSC celebrated its Golden Jubilee in 2023, marking a significant milestone in its journey and achieving remarkable success over the years. Before proceeding further, I must acknowledge the invaluable contribution of the preceding administration led by the ex-chairperson, Dr. 𝗀𝗧𝗏 𝗖𝗄𝗧. The team, under the able guidance of Dr. Acharya, not only spearheaded groundbreaking initiatives, but also orchestrated the first ever LitFest in February 2023 and the inaugural regional conference of NPSC hosted by Sunbeam School Varanasi in July 2023. The theme of the conference was From Vedas to the Metaverse, Transforming Education for a Resilient World. The conference had interestingly curated sessions based on Indian knowledge system and its relevance to the present education system as envisaged by NEP 2020 and NCF 2022.
I now invite Shri Vipin Kumar ji to kindly address the August gathering. Over to you, sir.
As we continue to change, one of the major shifts we can observe is the evolving landscape of family structures, especially in Indian context, because we are habitual of joint family system, but now we are moving towards nuclear family systems and just maybe 3 or 4 members in a family, not only in urban areas but in rural areas also. So it's a big challenge because family support, I think, is the biggest support. The evolution of family structure further is accompanied by the technological advancements also. And this also has transformed the family communication. 4 members in a family together under the same roof, but having 4 devices in hands, not talking to each other. And when I read this thing in a newspaper, so one fine day I tried to observe in my own house, and I found that we also were doing the same. So these are the things changing and bringing challenges to the mental health, to the society. But at the same time, I like to say that family is a powerful force that shapes our identities and forms the first step in learning to take an active role in our lives and society still. And it develops a child, it brings the education, the starting education of a child, and it helps to create strong relationship within the family, bonding between the children that sets them up for not just the success in school, but also in the life. Family bonding and communication, it enables children to draw from the experiences of others in the family, dadi, dada, grandfathers, and teaches them essential life lessons also, such as taking responsibility for one's actions and respecting others' feelings and perspectives. In addition, the family provides the various important influences for children as they grow and become increasingly involved in the communities also. We are passing through difficult time, and I think in coming 10-15 years, this is going to be the most important area, not in school education, but all over the world, for adults also. And when I say adults, the mental health of the teachers also is very challenging, very important. We have seen many cases in past where the mental health of teacher has brought something which should not have been to the school education. So this is very important issue.
आपने यहाँ बहुत सुंदर पिक्चर लगाई है, नर्चरिंग माइंड्स, उसके नीचे बहुत सारा लिखा है, मैं उसमें नहीं जाऊंगा, लेकिन बहुत सुंदर पिक्चर है. कितने टीचर्स ये जानते हैं कि परमात्मा ने ये जो 2 हॉल्स बनाए हैं, there's a intersection between 2 sides, है ना? आप दिख रहा है ना? कभी आपने सोचा है कि ऐसा क्यों है? Why has God created these two sides in the brain? इसको राइट हेमिस्फेयर और लेफ्ट हेमिस्फेयर बोलते हैं, राइट ब्रेन और लेफ्ट ब्रेन भी बोलते हैं, स्प्लिट ब्रेन भी बोलते हैं। रॉजर स्पीरी की बहुत अच्छी ये डिस्कवरी थी और उसको नेड हरमन ने बहुत अच्छा मेटाफर बाद में दिया, लेकिन मैं उसमें नहीं जाऊंगा। लेकिन ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है टीचर्स को समझना दैट हम ह्यूमंस जो हैं वो जो पैदा होते हैं ये दो हेमिस्फेयर्स के साथ पैदा होते हैं, और इसमें राइट हेमिस्फेयर जो है, जो राइट ब्रेन है, it is very empathetic brain, it's intuitive brain, ideative brain, brain made for relationships, brain made for understanding emotions, sensitivities, brain made for ideation, brain made for intuition. और जो left brain है, this is very analytical brain. This is made for mathematical abilities, this is made for organized abilities, structural things. This is made for, people who look at data, information, fact-based brain. Now imagine if someone develops only the right brain, what's going to happen? They are the most lovable people, but what will happen to them if their left brain is not developed? They will become very touchy. बात पे रोना आएगा. They won't be able to hold certain things to them. But imagine if someone becomes only a left brain developed person, what will happen to them? They will even अगर कोई कहे कि प्यार करता हूं तुमसे, वो कहेंगे डेटा बताओ, facts बताओ. Now God has given these two halls. आपने लिखा है nurturing minds. How will you nurture a mind unless you understand the nature of mind? And we have no ways in schools to develop or to understand or to help teachers to understand the nature of mind. धन्यवाद.
I'm not so involved in schools, but I do get the output of the people the students that you are educating. And I do see the problems that we are all talking about here. And actually these problems may seem to be really overwhelming. All of the diagnoses that you heard about how families are changing, environment is changing, this analysis has been done ad nauseum. There's also hundreds of solutions that people are proposing, from social emotional learning to, we have a very large office of well-being at Ashoka. Every year the requirements of staffing that with counselors and psychiatrists keeps going up. And it just, in fact, if you just deal with this issue, you might end up having a mental health problem. So I have come to the conclusion, at least for my own part, that I try to do three things, and I just want to share that quickly with you. The first one of them is actually a very interesting lesson that I learned from my very early school teacher, or rather I used to be one of her first students, or indeed her first ever classroom. This is a teacher that many of you know. The children from Sanskriti school were singing today. She was the founding principal, Mrs. 𝗀𝗵𝗿𝗀 𝗀𝗵𝗿𝗀. She taught me in grade 9 in St. Michael's, Patna. And one day she and I were in a car going together. I'm still very close to her, and I treat her as one of my mentors. And I was asking her, what is the secret of a great school? And she was, I'm also quite intrigued by the education I got in a small school in Patna. And I was wondering what was so special about that school that many of us turned out to go on and do well in life and so on. So I was asking her genuinely, when you build a school, and I was in the process of building ISB at that time, and Ashoka came later. And she told me the story of what had happened to her when she first came to teach us. And she was teaching in an all-boys school. We were 9th graders, teenagers. And when she first came in as an English teacher to teach us Macbeth, we gave her a really hard time. I don't remember that, of course, but she certainly does. And she says that she went crying one day to the principal. Many of you who know Mrs. Ishwaran cannot imagine her crying to a principal. But she went crying to the principal saying, listen, I can't do this. This is not for me. Because she had just done an MA and he had just requested her to come and teach. And the principal said, no, just stick it out for a little longer. And she said, but what do I need to do? How do I control this class full of hormone-infused boys? And he said to her something that she says, I've never forgotten, and that's what she was passing on to me, that the only thing you have to focus on is keeping your kids happy. The only thing you have to focus on is keeping your kids happy. Now, this may seem like a cute one-liner and a nice dialogue and a good statement to make, but I think it's a very profound thing for all of us to just keep in mind. And I've thought a lot about it because, happy means what? Obviously, it doesn't mean pleasure happy, fun happy. God knows kids have enough fun on their own. But what I have translated into, and to go from one end of the spectrum to the other, recently Arnold Schwarzenegger, some of you may know him, has written a book. It's called Be Useful. The book is just called Be Useful. And I think, to me, at least keeping kids happy means making the kids do something useful. Maybe it's my bias. I'm a doer more than a thinker or a philosopher. I think if you get kids to do things that they think are meaningful, that whether it's learning, whether it's a project, whether it is working on an extracurricular activity. And yes, it does take time to guide students to do things that they are useful for. But I think that's how you make them happy. This is on the 51st anniversary of this conference. Thank you.
So the theme you've chosen today, the nurturing minds, fostering mental health and well-being, as we've heard from all our speakers so far, is so timely right now. Around the world, not just India, we're increasingly recognizing the importance of mental health and how we should be investing so much more time, more money, more energy, more attention to strengthen and promote mental health. Good mental health is so critical. It allows us to cope with the stresses of life, to realize our abilities, to learn well, to live well, and to contribute to our communities. It has intrinsic value, and it's integral, of course, to our overall well-being. And yet, globally, the most recent reliable estimate indicates that at least 970 million of us are living with a mental health disorder. Anxiety and depression are the most common, but 970 million. That's nearly 1 in every 8 of us. People who have to endure adverse circumstances such as poverty, violence, disability, inequality are particularly vulnerable, particularly high risk of developing mental health conditions. And we know that people with these conditions died 10 to 20 years earlier than the rest of the population.
You're talking about emotional and mental well-being of students. And to all the educators over here, I think the week is very opportune. Because just the last week, the joint entrance results were out. The newspapers went to town proclaiming the toppers in the various cities and the percentiles. The social medias of almost all the schools across the country were abuzz with their success ratios and so on and so forth. But I hope in that context, I'm not talking about the toppers who are right now on a very high eye. I'm talking about everyone who could not make it. Principals and teachers are concerned with class 12 board results around the corner, that those who could not make it for whatever the reason have the wherewithals to withstand this shock. In that context, we are talking today about spaces and curricula for focus and emotional well-being. We have an extremely esteemed and diverse panel with us today.
I think when we talk about mindfulness, I think that is grossly misunderstood. What is practiced in the West is what we in our traditions consider an anesthetic. We have a tradition of vipassana, which is far more intense, it is far more nuanced, and it is based at nurturing human values and deepening human sensibilities. And I think what mindfulness is doing, it is really helping people slow down their metabolisms so that they can de-stress, only so that they can more effectively continue the kind of engagement that causes stress in the first place. And I think that is what corporations and many institutions are now doing mindfulness workshops to that end. I want to start with what may seem unrelated, but I will come to why it's really important to this issue. When I first went up to Dharamsala as a student of the Dalai Lama in the early 1980s, I was amazed. The Tibetans had been through Chinese genocide, far worse than anything that you see on television today happening in the Middle East. And from the small monks to school children to the Dalai Lama himself, a part of their daily prayer was, "May the veils of ignorance rise from the Chinese." And the Tibetan community is amongst the most happy, despite the enormous struggles and challenges that they have confronted and continue to confront. And His Holiness is so well known for his laughter, for the smiling face with which he, with such lightness, carries the enormous tragedy and suffering of his people and his own striving. So the point I'm trying to make is that it is not merely episodic interventions that I keep hearing about. We should do some curriculum tweaking, we should have time to do this, we should do X, Y, Z. That leads to the kind of mind shifts or mental change or behavior change that will make us fundamentally happy. I'm deeply troubled by the notions that we today subscribe to. Aditya spoke about success, people who failed in their examinations and so are miserable. Pramat spoke about happiness. I think the very core of our definitions of what constitutes happiness and what constitutes success are warped. And then we try to antidote them, having disrupted them ourselves in the classroom. I went to university in Oxford, and I will not reveal what marks I got. But we had a wonderful system. They were never revealed. Nobody knew how badly or how well I had done or I had performed. So there was an effort to pull back from the idea of competitive evaluation. And there was only an exam at the end of 2 terms and at the end of 8 terms. 9 terms. And that was it. So woven into the very fabric of our enterprise is competition and the fear of success.
Education should instill a tremendous sense of Atma Shraddha or self-belief in students. If you can give this one idea to children, our education will be totally complete. You don't have to go to the school at all today. There are so many private coaching and other institutions are there. Academics they can easily get sitting at home. But this they will not get unless they go to school. The tremendous amount of Atma Shraddha or self-belief which the student should get. Not only Swamiji says, education should prepare the students to face the challenges of life. What we talked about failure, what is that? Face the challenges of life. Not only that, he says, it should enable the children when they grow up to stand on their own. Do you think that we have to go beyond these ideas to bring about what all that is talked about? Once a child is confident, definitely it will be mindful, because where it will focus today? There is no point to focus because it is absolutely meaningless to come to school. What is there for the child to focus? The child would focus when it understands there is meaning in coming to school, I have something to learn, I'll be happy, I can get many things, then it will become mindful. Otherwise, it's a torture. For the most of the children today, it's a torture to come to school because it covers only the 10 or 15% of the creamy layer of students who are academically bright. So what will they do? Every year, till a few days back, there are not even examinations. So the year after, you go to the next class and you sit there, waste all your time and come back. That way it will not work. So, this idea, because now the way we have developed this program, we call it the Awakened Citizen Program, where we tell the children the immense possibilities in them. How through that they can understand the ideas of perfection, the ideas of harmony, the ideas of Shraddha, ideas of expanding oneself. All that it's brought about in an extremely student-friendly atmosphere. There is no top-down learning in this program. See, in all the training that we impart to the teachers, we only tell them, see, you are all so qualified. We are not going to tell them the content. Content is not important. What you should learn is, can you transform yourself from a teacher to a facilitator? So that, when the class, you allow a free discussion to happen, you allow the children's minds to awaken so that they absorb the ideas that way, not in a top-down manner. See, children, particularly in the current context today, they tremendously resent anything that is given from above. Using authority, using position. No, they will revolt. The moment the first thing they will do is to try to disobey.
After 11, 12 years of teaching, I actually began my meditation practice. And very quickly, in a couple of months, I started to carry a knife in my pocket. That knife was to chop that ego. I learned that over my time, now our work has reached 93 countries with IC3, with 1,400 plus volunteers. But what I learned was that we were all too often sitting on chairs called I know. And it was such a dangerous chair. And every day I take that knife out and chop that ego and say, clean that chair called I know and create chairs called I don't know or I want to know. Because everything around us is changing so dramatically, and our kids, their attention spans, and even ours, right now we have FOMO about what's happening on Insta and on WhatsApp. But our attention spans have dropped from 4 hours to 40 seconds. And what I realized through my travels was that we're perpetuating violence in primary school. The violence with the climate comes much later. The violence between countries and dysfunctional families, it comes much later, unconsciously, because, reproduction was a biological process. There was no university for parenting. And a lot of what we saw in terms of schooling was organically born out of the industrial age, where we created a combination of prison, military, and church or temple, ringing the bell, wearing a uniform like military, and prison. Principal is the chief jailer, all the teachers are the sub-jailers. You remember the principal walking in the corridor in your days, that small window, and you make them sit theater style. I mean, behind my head, it shines. You don't like to sit theater style behind me. I don't know what happened with Aditi ma'am and Ruchi ma'am sitting behind me. It must be very shiny there. But the fact is that we make them sit theater style in a prison, because if you make eye contact, all the prisoners will say run, everybody will run together. And the jailer will not be able to catch. So my fondest memory of school was the last bell. And the last bell, I don't know how many of you have the last bell, you remember it very fondly. And I was this hopeless boy who met a teacher called Mauli Ibrahim, who was really a counselor. And I don't know why somebody thought Sundar Pichai's teacher was the same as mine back in 2020. And that video started to go viral. But really, we're breeding comparisons in primary school. We're comparing kids around the way they walk, the way they talk, the way they look, the way they draw, the way they do math. When this comparison becomes acute in middle school and high school, we have competition. People aren't going to Kota or going somewhere else because they were born with this dream of going to Kota. Because we bred it in our schools. And now we're trying to solve the problem of dummy schools and all of the other challenges. But really that comparison became acute and became competition. And when that competition becomes acute, in adult life, violence is born between countries and communities.
AI has made such a wave, and not a single day passes that we do not see that something new has come in AI. And I was wondering that I have to moderate the session today, and with great enthusiasm, I opened the newspaper today if there is something new today. And believe me, I was not disappointed. That today's newspaper has reported that the doctors of AIIMS have come out with a new combination of AI and supercomputers, and they will be able to detect what is the exact therapy for a particular cancer patient. And that is called 𝗀𝗏𝗏𝗁𝗏 AI. So you just imagine the extent to which AI is going to affect us. And therefore, my first segment to all my panelists is that not more than 4 minutes overall view of how we can empower with AI, particularly in education, and how AI can help us grow with good health, good mental health, as a matter of fact, if that is a big concern, and of course, as to how AI can build bridges between the technology and the classroom. So that's my case, sir. Dr. Ajay Kumar.
All my life, actually, I worked in technology. I've been, so happened, it doesn't happen with IS officers, but I somehow got stuck with technology both in the state as well as in the center, and it's only when I became secretary I was put into defense, and my main contribution in defense was actually introducing technology to defense in a fairly significant way. So technology is something very dear to my heart, and artificial intelligence is the latest manifestation of technology, if I were to say. When we were growing up, we used to say that digital technologies, electronics is becoming ubiquitous. Everything is getting electronified. There will be nothing that will not have electronics. Now today, we have moved forward. You know, this is 30 years, 40 years back. Now today, if we were to look, everything is getting AI-fied, you know. There is no sphere of activity which is not getting affected by AI. And so it is in education. Here Vedant is there, and he was telling me about the wonderful work that he is doing in personalizing education. How do you improve learning outcomes using AI? And you can actually enable the student to actually give him the inputs which will help him to absorb the content better. And what could be more effective as teachers, educators, you would all appreciate that this could be such an amazing use of technology.
Giving you an overall idea, one thing which is certain is the future that we think today is not going to be the same in 3 years. There are technologies like Sir was saying, Google is claiming by 2030 humans will be immortal. We'll live forever with nanobot technology, which was set up during Obama administration time 10 years ago. And in a world where Google is claiming immortality, imagine the level of other technologies that have arrived. And we are sitting here where a lot of governments, I refuse to name them currently, but are setting up robots as AI labs. Someone's setting up a computer as an AI lab. When AI is really the new electricity, it's the computer brain, which is going to redefine the way we work, redefine every job field, whether it's agriculture, whether it's climate, whether it's even industry, doing machinery work. Everything will include AI, because if it doesn't, AI gives a solution where the cost of operating comes down and the quality of your end product comes up. So no company that's not using AI will be able to survive in this coming time. And what we are talking about here is genuine AI. not AI that started from 1953, where they call linear regression AI, machine learning AI, blockchains also become AI, IoTs also become AI, everything is AI. But all these terms are terms of the current and the past. The term of the future is deep learning, which is the computer brain. And students need to be skilled in that. So how is this technology different from the previous technologies? Can I give a car a brain to drive? Yes, deep learning. So that's where the first car was given the brain, which Elon Musk is using now as part of Tesla. So I had the privilege of doing my master's at Stanford University, working closely under, who's known, Sir doesn't agree with me, but essentially the founder of AI. He invented the first Google's AI brain, which was the first AI brain in the world that was capable of thinking like humans. So that future that was created by him is the reason we see ChatGPT today.
So today's topic, let me just focus on two things: AI and emotional well-being. AI definitely is one of the most spoken topic in the world right now, and in our annual meeting of the World Economic Forum, which was held in January this year, like last month only, it was a most discussed topic. Be it companies coming from any of the sectors, manufacturing, supply chains, logistics, e-commerce, or maybe any of the industries, and education definitely. When we talk about AI in education, one of the thoughts initially came up into our minds that is it going to replace our jobs, or is it going to what will happen to the educators? But definitely AI, what I think will be an assistant to the teachers. It will be a support, and is going to help the educators, empower educators to the education which they are delivering.
We really have to ask a fundamental question: what is intelligence? Because unless you ask that basic question, we will not get into AI, right? So for example, Vedant, he spoke about intelligent cars. I can have intelligent flowers. I can have this intelligent bottle. So when I say world of possibilities, a lot is possible in this whole world of AI. And, as in this domain of education, I really think there are three critical stakeholders that at the moment I want to focus on. One is the teacher, who's who is in the classroom, managing students. And, ChatGPT or Perplexity or co-pilots are not going to go away. They are all becoming better. So we better start making use of it. And we can start making use of it in lesson planning, assessments, and there are a variety of higher order tools which are now available. And basically, I want you to think that if you have someone in your school who says AI, then why can't you give this project to that someone to build a customized tool for your school? It's easy. It's not too difficult as it sounds. Okay. The second stakeholder here is the child, the student. We are all concerned about our student well-being and everything, sir. So the real challenge I faced as a student always, ma'am, इस 4 नंबर में से आपने 2 क्यों काट लिया? और उसका आंसर किसी के पास नहीं था, right? But today, actually, I'm working with all these intelligent tools, and the lowest order is ChatGPT, by the way. And you say step by step solve करो, step by step करके बताओ, ये बताओ किस step में गलत हुआ, वो बता देता है. Now, what essentially it means that personalized learning in classroom at scale is possible. That is possibility number 1. Possibility number 2 is add up all the questions and add up all the sessions that you are doing. Now you can create what they say data lake for every student. That's not the end. Add up all those students, you can create data lake for the teacher. Teacher ने कैसा पढ़ाया? Right? So that's the second stakeholder. But teacher ने कैसा पढ़ाया? That brings me to the third stakeholder, which is administrators at large, regulator, school principals, all of you who are here. And the point that I want to really raise, look, this is here. It's not going to go away. This is the biggest revolution that we are going to see in our lifetimes. What are we doing? What are we thinking about skilling our students with AI? And there are two scenarios, two questions rather, I want to pose here. One is what skills we need to, how do we skill? Because, India is society, big society, too many layers. But progressive schools we are talking right now.
Drama, especially drama in education. And why I specifically mention drama in education, because it's for schools. It is not, it's about a process and not really about a product. But obviously, any piece of art, there would always be a product. But we are talking about the process of learning and experiencing and going through the whole act. And that's what makes it very important. Drama in education is about the teacher and the student and not about outsiders. So that's why I give it like the 5 stars in any form of drama. And that really helps in mental health issues, like, for example, life skills, which help enhance and makes you a resilient person, because it's talking about psychosocial skills with cognitive abilities. And for all that, you need experiential learning. No amount of lecture can help. No amount of lecture can help. Reading cannot help. AI cannot help. None of that can help. Typical artist, okay? So you definitely need experiential learning to go through it. And before I can go on talking, but I'm going to be fair to all of them and, pass the mic on, because I'm sure 2 minutes are up. But I'm going to give you one incredible definition of art for me. For me, art is action, reflection, transformation. ART. Action, reflection, transformation.
I joined a new school where the ethos was completely different. It was a different kind of school. It was very new to me. I was the shy, quiet boy in the class. I was not very socially outgoing. I was kind of like, had a few friends, but I wasn't out there. But I was a different person in my performing arts classes. And I had performing arts once a week, every week without fail. And in that, and I think I want to say it was an hour and a half even. And in that time, I was able to be a different person. And I get this a lot, saying, oh, you're an actor, you must be so extroverted, you must be so outgoing. I still am not. I'm pretty nervous being up here despite having done 1,000 shows. That doesn't go away. One has nothing to do with the other. Being introverted and being shy is not a bad thing. But that I had a space where I could be other than that was amazing. It was amazing for 2 reasons. Because one, it allowed me to be seen. And it allowed me to be seen, of course, by my teachers and my peers and my friends who saw me very differently in the classroom, but saw me being very different in this performing arts space. And that led to a couple of things. One, it affected how my social life in school progressed, because people saw that I was not just this quiet boy, even though when I came back to class, I might have been the quiet, shy boy. But they were like, oh, this other side of him can exist too. But also, it allowed the teachers to see me differently. And in their best intentions, with the best intentions that my teachers had, they might have held me with a little bit more kid gloves, been a little bit softer on me, saying, new kid, quiet, let's go easy on him, don't thrust too much on him. And all of that would be perfectly understandable.
Arts education builds better brains and better lives. It's not me, but these are two authors, Susan Magsamen and Ivy Ross, who wrote this book in 2023, published by Random House. And it says categorically, with case studies, how the arts support the emotional resilience in children and adolescents. And it goes back to neuroscience, which I know my friend Richard will be very happy about, that somehow I've brought science into this, and I'm not just pigeonholing it as art. So neuroscience tells us that the hippocampus, is that the right way to pronounce it, which is lodged deep in our temporal lobe, is involved in the processes of learning, memory, but also emotional processing, including anxiety. And when we engage with art, whether it is frankly a goal that you score, I put sport into this as well. That sheer moment of joy, that superb goal, that superb abhinay, that superb moment when you have given your all to the character, that particular moment, what happens is that synapses are caused, are created. You have more gray matter if you practice forms of art. There are mood-altering emotions and enzymes that are produced in your brain. All of it makes you feel good. It makes you feel you have a strong sense of self. It makes you feel, I believe in me. It makes you feel, I can be strong and I can take on whatever, comes my way.
And inclusive for diverse communities and populations. Because as you know, unabashedly, we are a privileged lot of schools and educators, but we need to reach out this idea of arts to everybody. I think every child deserves it. Yes. So how can it be made more accessible?
One is like both of them talked about how much they learned outside the classroom. But hey, what about if we could learn all that in the classroom? Yes.
let us invite on stage and welcome 𝗀𝗵𝗿𝗶 Millennium School, Mathura. OPG World School, Dwarka. We welcome you. Bluebells Model School, Gurugram.
Yesterday I was reading an article of yours about AI, and I thought that, you know, the way you talked about it in 2017, it's all sort of unfolding now. So it was amazing the way that you took on the principles in 2017. And also I would like to comment and say that, you know, it's very difficult to sort of describe you because you are a man for all seasons. So one doesn't really read a biodata on Amitabh Kant. Could you please give him a hand on that?
My view always has been that we are laying too much stress on academics. There is a need for greater stress on physical activity. There's a need for greater stress on sports. There's a need for greater stress on creative talent. And the purpose of any education system has to be to make the child learn to think. And in India, we are laying just too much stress on books all the time. And our ability to focus on creative thinking, our ability to focus on sports, our ability to focus on physical activities, our ability to focus on a lot of extracurriculars has decreased over a period of time. And how well you do in life, and I mean, I can give you examples after examples of people, how well you do in life is not related directly to how well you do in exams. I mean, students who do well in life are those who are reasonably well in academics, but who are outstanding in sports and who are also outstanding in extracurricular. So every student must excel in one extracurricular, one sport, and do reasonably well in academics. And there's nothing wrong in having failures. I mean, all the top disruptors of the world, you look at the top 10 disruptors of the world in Silicon Valley, all of them have dropped out. They've dropped out of Harvard, they've dropped out of colleges and gone on to disrupt the world and done innovative things. I mean, look at a person like Elon Musk or look at Bill Gates. They've all dropped out at some point of time. There's nothing wrong in being a dropout. Indian society and Indian teachers and Indian academicians and Indian parents must accept failures as a part of life to enable the children to succeed on a later date. And that will enable India to become a great innovative nation. But somehow in our education system, we've only believed that you must do well in books. The more you focus only on books, you're putting too much of pressure on the students.
Bharati Foundation has schools in rural India. And we're also working with government schools, but our focus is only rural India. So when I speak a lot of from the context of having gone into villages, spoken to parents, seen children. So when I see, and I live in urban India. So when I see these two worlds, you know, all children are facing challenges. In urban schools, challenges would be different. In rural India, challenges would be different. But I think life gives you challenges. And when we were setting up our own schools, we were very clear that we have to bring up human beings who are responsible, confident, and good human beings. So we, in Satya Bharati schools, in our schools, a very balanced approach to education was always a core philosophy. I think in 2006-07, when I think at NCF 2005 came out, I mean, it spoke so wonderfully well about holistic development. That was the time we were actually conceptualizing our schools. We were very lucky to take inspiration from there. And holistic development has been a very, very key part of Satya Bharati schools. Yes, we also teach. You know, it's almost like, yes, we also teach. But like Amitabh Kant ji said, for us, therefore,
one thing that we noticed in rural India, which is kind of missing in urban India, is the joint family and a community approach to a child. You know, I'll give you an example. For example, in COVID, there were few families which ran out of food. One phone call to Sarpanch and those families were supplied with food. So there is a community approach. You know that you will be supported, correct? So if your mother is unwell, your chachi will give you good food. You don't have to order in, right? You had a fight in your school. Your mother is out, your father is out, they're visiting their family in another village. Your chacha, chachi or your dada, dadi will look after you at that point of time. So when we look at healthy life, we must look at what are we eating, are we exercising enough or not. There was a choir and I was so happy to see the choir about mental well-being, and I was very inspired by whoever wrote that song. But I believe that social fabric becomes a very, very critical factor in bringing up balanced human beings.
Each member of the panelists and keep on asking questions side by side.
I mean, I want to be a little off track when we were just talking about happiness and what is it to be happy. We had this lovely poem in school. I have had the privilege of studying in Bombay in a very renowned school, Bombay Scottish School. And this poem said, "Work while you work and play while you play. That is the way to be happy and gay." So,
well said, well said.
So the word gay was yeah. So I used to think when people used to say gay, when I would open up the dictionary, I would say gay is happy, and I am happy and I'm gay. Literally I am gay.
Wonderful. So, in all sense of the word.
All sense of the word, yeah. So, yeah, I have had a lot of challenges and struggles in my life. Being the first member of a royal family in the world to come out was not an easy task, not an easy journey. But yes, there were certain things in my life which paved the way for me. Certain principles which I followed. I'm a student of yoga also, and there are certain things which have helped me pave my way because I mean there's lots had happened. My effigies were burnt in the fire. I was getting death threats because when you speak the truth, there's always going to be obstacles in your life.
I believe such type of interaction should happen and should continue to happen, and I must congratulate and thank the organizer and to think about this kind of interaction and discussion, which is so important. And personally, I feel that I, being a psychiatrist at AIIMS almost 30 years now, and also work with ministry and being an academician, I am a clinician, but I would like to go out of my comfort zone and interact and discuss, and I have been associated with many teachers training program, diet program, interaction, counselor training, and working with the Ministry of Women and Child Development, CBSC, and so on. Dr. Nagpal is also here. We have been working together. So it's a wonderful opportunity and discussion. I think it is important, and I feel as an advocate, and since I am working with children and we have a special clinic, let me tell you, at AIIMS we have the oldest for almost more than 60 years now, a child guidance clinic, child psychiatric clinic, which we have in the country. In fact, it is one of the oldest. And we are training, we are doing services, and we are training to our doctors in this regard. Now, with regard to advocacy, always we say, I think whenever I discuss, we talk, that the adult problem which happens, more than 50% happen before the age of 14 years. Before the age of 14 years, there are some seeds, some symptoms, some problems are there. More than 50% before the age of 14 years. Again, I am repeating because we have been part of this study also. And this is very, very crucial and important. And so what it means is, whenever we are talking of prevention, we are talking of, so we need to interact with children, because that's a very important population. Because if at all, we need to see that how we can, cut down the problem of adult. So actually, we have to work with children, and that is what we are advocating to ministry, and that is what we are, discussing with them, because that's a very, very important population. And I am glad that, of course, there are certain initiatives which have been taken by ministry, like we do have a national policy for children. Again, that's a brief document. But in recent time, I can say that a lot of emphasis has been there on mental health.
Comprehensive human development as the goal of a school. Well-rounded personality. That's what changed the entire scenario. 1986 के बाद 2022 comes in. And we've been implementing the NEP. The NCF has come, 37 years gone by. And the wonderful part is how beautifully, actually, we should not put the onus on handicaps and lacunae. The nation has worked, as Ruchi ma'am rightly said, towards positioning mind as a component of comprehensive well-being onto the white paper. I do agree with Amitabh ji when he says that there's no need for a charter. But I also agree with Amita ma'am that without a white paper, how will things move? And ma'am, 1 week back, you've written in the Hindustan Times, I have got so many people asking me, how do we go and meet ma'am? Because they know that I know you. What if the girl had written a different letter to her parents? Have you read that? Yes. All of you? Then I think that should be one of the sessions of NPSC conference.
So American embassy, they started, the first secretary, she suggested, wife of the ambassador, to start a forum that was dynamic women in America and in US and India. And there it was, she hosted a high tea at American embassy, nearly 70, 80 from all walks of life, all professionals. And there was no photography, no speeches, no introduction. It was just meet each other and do something. And after that, they used to, the high officials, they used to have they used to invite us for the tea. And there again, no agenda.
And I'm glad that we have a conference like this that is giving impetus to the stuff that we've never spoken about. It is dark, it is humiliating for children, and it is disempowering. So I'm glad a conference like this is putting this in place. The one ingredient we have in place today is willingness. The willingness of a distinguished panel like this to be here.
What I learned is when you start judging people, you lose friends very quickly. You judge their actions. Chetan never criticized me for criticizing his bowling. If he bowled badly, he knows he bowled badly. If Lakshman knows he's played a bad shot and got out, and I write that it was a bad shot, he's going to accept it as part of positive criticism. But if I say that Lakshman is a bad cricketer and he doesn't deserve to be in the side, I'm getting personal. And I lose friends very quickly. And I lose respect more than anything else. Even the reader is discerning. They're watching it on television. They know what is going on. And rather than get personal, you focus on their actions.
क्योंकि बैट्समैन जो होते हैं ना, बहुत जब पिटाई करते हैं तो इतनी पिटाई करते हैं, ये लोग इतनी पिटाई करते हैं कि हम लोग समझ नहीं आती कि बॉल डालें तो कहाँ डालें. तो आई स्टार्टेड, जेफ क्रो वाज बैटिंग एट दैट टाइम. तो जेफ क्रो एक ऐसे बैट्समैन थे, मतलब दो बैट्समैन लाइफ के अंदर जिनको मुझे बॉलिंग करते हुए समझ नहीं आता था कि कहाँ बॉलिंग करूँ. वन वाज जेफ क्रो एंड सेकंड वाज डेविड बून. आई नेवर न्यू कि कहाँ डालूँ बॉल. उस ज़माने में थोड़ा बॉल भी डिफरेंट थे. सोनेक्स बॉल्स वाज देयर. तो मेरी पिटाई हो रही थी. कपिल पाजी ने मुझे बदल दिया. जब जेफ क्रो आउट हुए तो मुझे वापस बुलाया. फर्स्ट ओवर आई गॉट ए, लाइक सेकंड ओवर आई गॉट ए फर्स्ट विकेट. तो जान में जान मेरी आई कि बच गए यार, कुछ तो मिला. एंड देन दैट वाज स्मिथ, रुदरफोर्ड. आई गॉट रुदरफोर्ड का विकेट मिला, मिडिल स्टंप गिरा. देन स्मिथ केम, वो ऑफ स्टंप पे लगा. 2 विकेट के बाद तो मुझे ये लगा नहीं यार अगला मैच पक्का हो गया, कोई टेंशन नहीं है. बट जब हमने थर्ड प्लेयर को आते देखा, चैटफील्ड वॉज कमिंग, तो कपिल पाजी मेरे साथ खड़े थे। तो नागपुर की विकेट पे बॉल घुटने से ऊपर नहीं आ रहा था, एंड चैटफील्ड ने हेलमेट पहना था वाइजर वाला, आर्म गार्ड पहना था, चेस्ट गार्ड पहना था। तो कपिल पाजी ने कहा ये तो बाहर ही आउट होके आ रहा है। और देन वी लाइक इन पंजाबी, इसे सीधा पा, बस सीधा पा, नो बॉल ना करी, सीधा पा ही आउट हो जाएगा। मैंने भी कह रहे मेंटर की बात सुननी है, सीधा ही डालना है, मैंने भी बॉल सीधा डाला, मैंने सच कुछ नहीं किया। आप उस वीडियो को आराम से स्लो मोशन में देखें, सीधा बॉल है, टांगों के बीच में चैटफील्ड जी ने बॉल निकाल दिया, लेग स्टंप पे बॉल लगा और मुझे हैट्रिक मिली।
If suppose there are 100 students participating in a competition, you have only one winner. So how can the rest of the 99 get a trophy? It's next to impossible. But if all the 100 students who are participating in that competition are fearless, are confident, and they know that they have done everything possible to win that competition, in the end, they are happy. And once that happiness comes, then the child grows into being a very confident kid, into being a very confident person. And ultimately, we know that in our current society, present society, more than getting, marks, 10% marks in your various, subjects, what is important is, can they face the challenges of the outside world? And if we, and I'm glad to know that, a lot of schools, in fact, majority of the schools are focusing on this all-round development. And sports is a very integral aspect of an all-round development. So with sports, right from your younger days, you know how to handle success, how to handle failures, you know how to confront the challenges, how you can handle the peer pressure, how you can, prepare to the best of your abilities to take on your competitors. So sports teaches you all the attributes of being a successful and a happy person. So I think consistency comes when you do the right things repeatedly, and that right thing doesn't necessarily lead or result in winning a competition, but doing the right things eventually will help you to realize your potential.
Like I would also, like a lot of people used to tell me that, in the finals you're very, very strong, you're mentally very, very strong. Like she would also, you're one of the easiest students I've had. And a lot of that goes to my schooling days. My principal sir is sitting here. Wow. So I joined modern school in class 3. And I was in the boarding. So that made me a person that I was when I was competing, It was very difficult because, you become very independent. At that age, like I didn't even know how to tie a patka or, tie my shoelaces. I used to have those Velcro shoes, And so my school taught me a lot. My teachers taught me a lot because that was my home. That's where I grew up. So it's very important that, when we go back, now also when I go to, my school and everything, I get those memories, where I grew up doing all those naughty things and at times doing things, which were good for my sport. So I learned a lot, in my schooling days, I would say that. And one more thing I would like to tell all the teachers here that, you should always empower the kids with good values and positive energy, which is very, very important.
Many of these examinations, they run based on the principle of elimination. They are not actually checking as to how good you are. But are we telling our children as to how good they are, and are we testing them on their collective desire and their collective goodness in our schools? That again is a larger question. We may talk about stress, we may talk about stress-free environment, and the National Education Policy 2020, it bats for the fact that our schools should be stress-free. There should be joy of learning. But the larger question is, how do we solve the ultimate demand and supply issues? And if you don't solve the demand and supply issues, things are not going to change fundamentally at several levels. I went to a college called St. Stephen's and joined in the year 1983. It admits about 300 students a year. It did so long back, and it does so even now. And the number of students every year passing out of our system is increasing. So every year in the whole country, approximately 1.8 crore children take class 10 exams. And 1.4 crore children sit for class 10, 12th. And exams are going on as of now. And only 86 lakh people are getting into higher education institutions every year. So what is happening? Where are the rest going? The National Education Policy says that by 2030, we should aim to have 100% GR for secondary education. I may tell you that as of now, it is just about 60. So when you start your class 1 journey and you go up till class 12th, 40 children out of every 100 are dropping out of the system. And the GR for higher education is 28, which is perhaps the best. But then again, the National Education Policy says that by 2035, we must aim to have a GR of 50. Just about a little more than 10% of Indians are graduates. Now imagine if these numbers were to go up, what kind of a competition you are going to find in the society and the kind of demand and supply. So what do? We become an ostrich. We don't discuss these meaningful questions. And then we run dummy schools. We run institutions which are the kind which has made quota famous. There is this National Progressive Schools Conference. If you were to partner with us, then I would request you that can we map all these kind of associations all across the country state-wise. And then after that, can we create a federated structure over it so we have an all-India structure for creating some kind of a platform so we can talk to each other, and I can tell you a few things and you can tell me lots of things as to what ails the Indian education system and what needs to be done. And if you would say yes, then Dr. Jyoti, I'm willing to work on this and we can create something. We need to talk to each other, and I think another bane of Indian education system is that many of us who are secondary school education, be it in the state or in the government of India, we think that we are only going to look after the government schools. Now there's a 35% world which is outside us, private managed schools, but they are all part of us only. So we need to create a platform where all of us are there together and we work together. Difficult question to say that how the demand and supply is going to shape out in the near future. But if we want to do well with our children, we must sort it out. Otherwise, we'll keep talking about it. And if you don't get this right, then stress is going to remain in our system. And people would be looking for those very tough examinations at the end of your career. Causing stress, taking the joy out of living, and also running you down as an individual. So all these things need to be done, but I'm grateful to all of you for inviting me to be part of this valedictory function, also listening to me. Let's work together, do something. Our children definitely need better than what we are being able to provide to them.
Ms. Asha Prabhakar, the chairperson NPSC and principal Balbharti Public School, Noida, welcomed the galaxy of dignitaries and shared her delight with huge turnout of the school mentors and leaders. Ma'am, we are all here with you for your heartfelt prayer, which talked about the essence of which was, may all begins everywhere be happy and free. Ms. Malika Preman, Secretary NPSC and Principal Tagore International School, East of Kailash, read out the annual report for the session 23-24, highlighting notable NPSC projects in collaboration with UNIC, partnership with NBT, and highlighting the year being our Women in School Leadership Exchange Program in collaboration with Melbourne, Australia. So proper care of children. And yes, I totally agree that as it was discussed by Mr. V.V.S. Lakshman or the previous panel, and Sir also emphasized on, that children will face pressure. We cannot deny the fact that children are not going to face pressure, but then our responsibility, our duty is to prepare them how to take care of themselves. How to deal with it, this is more pertinent as compared to simply denying that let there be no pressure. So this is there. And of course, we were privileged to have listened to Sir during the valedictory session, and I'm sure that the sensitivity and alertness from the eyes of policy implementation as well as the practitioners, there is going to be a beautiful cohesion which will emerge out of this conference and which will give us more confidence in our thoughts and actions, and I'm sure that we will be able to work forward with this. So these are few of the gists, sir. I'm just sharing so far the sessions which have happened, and the smile on the faces of all the delegates, the contentment which is there. I'm sure it's going to last long and it will emerge in our practices also. So thank you, wishing you a wonderful day.
We have amidst us Shri Deepak Vohra, IFS, ex-ambassador and Indian diplomat, presently serving as special advisor to PMO Foreign Affairs.
अपने startups के बारे में हमें बता रहे थे. One of them makes 20-21 साल, started 4 months ago, and makes computer bags. और 4 महीने के बाद उनका turnover 20 लाख रुपए पहुंच गया है. They are also selling online. So chairperson of National Progressive Schools Conference, आप कहाँ हैं? तशरीफ लाएं. और मुझे पसंद आया क्योंकि इसके ऊपर राष्ट्रीय ध्वज भी है, तो ये मेरी तरफ से उन बच्चों की तरफ से आप स्वीकार करें. एल्कॉन के डायरेक्टर साहब आपको नहीं भूल गया, ये जूट का बना हुआ है. अब आप अमेज़न में इसको, वो अमेज़न बोलेगा 60% डिस्काउंट और 120 रुपए का, और ये बच्चे 20 रुपए का बना के एल्कॉन को बेचते हैं. ये ताकत है इस देश की. सर, please accept this. Thank you. Thank you very much. So nice.
After having heard and absorbed everything that happened during this entire conclave, I would like to say that difficult we will do now, impossible might take a little longer.